So what people fear. Now I got the information that I need, and now I have to break your neck. It's just the way it is. I'm just a messenger.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel's still in the middle of filming Avengers Doomsday and Spider-Man Brand New Day, and while all this is going on, like while things are getting crazier and crazier for their 2026, Josh Brolin just came out and said that he's been talking to the Russo brothers about coming back as Thanos for both Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Now, he didn't differentiate if this was just going to be for Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, but I think based on the timeline, he's talking more about what they'd be doing during Secret Wars and them adapting some really iconic comic book panels from that. Because there are actually a number of bigger, canceled Thanos projects that Josh Brolin was supposed to come back for during Marvel Phase 4, in addition to some of the stuff that he did come back as Thanos for. Like, he has been back a couple times as Thanos since Avengers Endgame. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I think we all expected Thanos to come back in live action eventually. It was just a question of when he would come back, how much he would come back for, and whether or not there'd be solo projects or it'd just be for Avengers cameos like Avengers Secret Wars. When people talk about Marvel bringing Thanos back, they always post that meme. You see it so many times since Avengers Endgame happened. You couldn't live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. That meme is also relevant for Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom. Like, you use that in a bunch of different contexts with what's happening with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and how many times they've changed their plans for how this next Avengers movie is going down. But the really interesting thing is that he talked about a number of different projects. He even talked about almost becoming Green Lantern, like Kyle Chandler is going to be Hal Jordan during the new Green Lantern HBO series inside James Gunn's DCU. For a little while, Josh Brolin was actually up for the role and almost became Hal Jordan Green Lantern. There were so many jokes that he had with Ryan Reynolds when they made Deadpool 2 together and he was a version of Cable. Like, they were both making fun of Green Lantern and Ryan Reynolds during that time. For a very brief second, he actually almost completed the circle of references and jokes and replaced Ryan Reynolds as the next Hal Jordan.
Okay, let's talk about the obvious thing. Green Lantern. End of career, and yet you're still going. Why? None of us can understand.
But in a new interview, Josh Brolin talked about a number of different projects. Of course, he talked a lot about the future of Thanos coming back to Marvel for Avengers Doomsday, Secret Wars, other Marvel stuff. He revealed that he talks to Robert Downey Jr. several times a year, every year since Avengers Endgame, because they're friends, and he's been talking to the Russos 4 or 5 times a week since Avengers Endgame, like literally all the time. Also because both Robert Downey Jr. and Josh Brolin have business with the Russos, like other projects they're working on with the Russos since Avengers Endgame. So it's almost like the original Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Marvel Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 band never actually broke up. They all just continued working on projects together in a bunch of different places. This is actually one of the reasons why Kevin Feige rehired the Russos to come back and direct Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, because first he went to Robert Downey Jr. to ask him to come back for Doctor Doom, Avengers Doomsday related stuff. Then as part of his terms for coming back, in addition to giant bags of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars to be paid to come back, he also made them bring the Russos back. Like, if I'm coming back, you have to hire the Russos back to direct both of these movies. So when Josh Brolin talks about coming back for Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, I think he's just speculating on Avengers Doomsday, and this would be more of an Avengers Secret Wars kind of reference so that they can pay off the scene of Thanos versus Doctor Doom. There's been a lot of really cool fan art out there of this scene. If you haven't read Jonathan Hickman's Marvel comic book, Secret Wars, a lot of what they're doing in the Avengers Secret Wars live-action movies will be based on that. They'll be changing it a lot, but there'll be some moments that they'll take from that. Even if you haven't read the comic book, you've probably seen those iconic panels. The whole idea is that everybody winds up on Battleworld from the multiverse, a bunch of different universes. We've talked about how this is going to work in the live-action movies, too, with Avengers Doomsday's ending sort of on a downer moment, the way that Avengers Infinity War ended on the snap, and then you push into Avengers Endgame. At a certain point, he winds up finding God Emperor Doom, and that's the big standoff. He realizes he has to kill Doom in order to take control of the planet because Doom is ruling over the planet like a God Emperor. Dr. Doom asks him if he has the Infinity Gauntlet with him, because that would make him way more powerful, almost on par with God Emperor Doom, but not quite as powerful. That's the key idea, not quite as powerful.
Do you have an Infinity Gauntlet now?
I do not.
Thanos grossly overestimates his chances and thinks that he doesn't need the Infinity Gauntlet to kill God Emperor Doom, and Doom basically just wipes the floor with him and rips his skeleton right out of his body. One of the other really iconic comic book panels after that was Black Panther using the Infinity Gauntlet against God Emperor Doom. There are a couple other rumors about them trying to do a version of King Thanos from another universe. King Thanos is based on the older Thanos who winds up conquering the MCU at a certain point in the vast, vast different future. That was based on the same cosmic Ghost Rider comic book. They've done a version of that inside the Disney parks, which is like a completely different experience, completely different universe connected to the MCU. Earlier, I mentioned that there were a number of canceled Thanos projects that were supposed to happen during Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5, and so on. This was back a couple years ago during the pandemic era when Bob Iger and then Bob Chapek had them increase their output to crazy levels. So there was like a Marvel series on every single week in multiple movies that they then started to seem like they were going to be releasing straight to Disney Plus, like all the special presentations. And there were a couple sequel movies that then got subsequently canceled after their initial movies underperformed, like Eternals, for example. For a while, there was a version of Eternals 2 that they were developing, but then that got canceled a long time ago. That would have been one of the first big things to actually bring Thanos back in a different kind of way, all because of Thanos and Harry Styles' Eros' backstory, their relationship. They would have just dug more into that because Thanos is an Eternal from Titan, if it wasn't clear. He just has the deviant gene, which is why he doesn't look like Eros. Within the MCU, the whole idea is that Titan was meant to be another planet of different types of Eternals, the same way that the Eternals came to planet Earth, then eventually emerge and destroy the planet. The whole idea is that that was also going down on the planet Titan in its history too. You remember all that concept art that leaked out of the young version of Thanos with his family? This is what they were meant to look like. We call him Thanos because he hadn't gotten super thick yet. This is all part of the way they changed Thanos' backstory inside the MCU, dramatically different from his comic book backstory, but there were versions of his comic book accurate backstory that at different points they were adapting, especially early on during Marvel Phase 1 when the first Avengers movie happened. But one of the big ideas that the Eternals 2 movie would have gotten into was explaining what was going on with other Eternals on other planets. For example, one of the biggest questions they would have had to answer is if the Eternals are meant to be celestial robots, how did they father a child? Like, how did Alars and Suisan father Thanos and Star Fox?
They called me a madman.
There are a lot of people that were asking about them doing Hyperion eventually. He's meant to be another Eternal from another planet who just pretends to be like a Superman type of character. His backstory reads a lot like Superman when he comes to planet Earth. One of the other big canceled Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Phase 5 projects they were working on was a young Thanos story. It sounded more like a limited series because they wouldn't have done multiple seasons, but also the idea that they would have just gotten more into his backstory in the MCU, the way that the young Thanos comic book did his origin story. There are a lot of changes, like that young Thanos comic book gets a lot into his first meeting with the cosmic entity Death and how their relationship starts, that eventually leads to his comic book Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos Quest storyline, where he tries to assemble the Infinity Gauntlet to impress Death, like he wants to court Death, which they did reference at the end of the first Avengers movie. It sounded like in the original plan for the way that Marvel's Infinity Saga was going to play out, Marvel wanted to do a more comic book accurate version of that. There's even now a famous deleted scene, or technically it's a deleted scene, where Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury comes to Captain America to tell him about the Infinity Stones in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files, claiming that S.H.I.E.L.D. has actually talked to Mephisto about the Infinity Gems. During the Infinity Gauntlet comic book, Mephisto is actually a lackey of Thanos, is just waiting to take his chance to actually take control himself, take the Infinity Gems for himself. But it sounds like initially Kevin Feige was thinking about introducing the Mephisto character much earlier and making him a bigger part of that build-up to Avengers Infinity War. Cut to Marvel Phase 6. After Marvel Phase 5, Agatha's series, we have Aubrey Plaza's version of the cosmic entity Death, so we do have her in the MCU now, and now because of the Ironheart series, we have Sacha Baron Cohen's version of Mephisto. Personally, I'm not expecting to see either of those characters during Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, maybe some light references, but the way that Kevin Feige talked about in his big Marvel Phase 7 panel and his State of the Union address, like the state of the Marvel Universe and how we're rebooting everything, how we're going to go forward with the X-Men, the mutant characters in Marvel Phase 7, why everything's going to look way different. As part of that, he made it sound like there were a lot of Marvel Phase 4 characters and Phase 5 that they'd introduce, like brand new characters that we might never see again. Or if we do, it'd be like 30 plus years. Like, he gave the example of the leader character, like, oh, you remember almost 20 years ago when the leader showed up in that first Incredible Hulk movie? Well, we finally brought him back. Some characters might not come back for that same amount of time.
We'll see what happens when you have to protect this place from the others.
Basically saying don't hold your breath on a lot of these brand new characters. So everybody just post all your reactions in the comments below. What do you think about Josh Brolin coming back as a version of Thanos for Avengers Secret Wars? Do you want them to pay off that Thanos versus God Emperor Doom scene? Or if they don't do that, what other scenes do you want to see them use Thanos for during these next Avengers movies? We will see whether or not Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom uses any kind of Infinity Stones as part of his plan during Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars. It'd be weird if he didn't a little bit. Generally just sounds like a lot of their bigger plans for more Thanos are not happening anymore, so if he does come back, they'll be relatively cameo level, like smaller scenes. As we've been talking about the past couple weeks, Marvel has explained that they're pulling way back. While this Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars stuff is busy filming in the background, we also have all the Spider-Man Brand New Day stuff that they're filming. I'll probably do more videos for that in the next couple of days. There've been a bunch more scenes, bunch more footage that we've gotten from that. So if you have any special requests or questions about what's going on right now in general at Marvel, just write them below in the comments and I'll add them to my future bonus videos. Click here for all that new Spider-Man footage, and click here for all those new Sony Spider-Man Brand New Day trailers that they also release separately. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.